My name's Kevin Proto, and I started a group back in 2010 called Locals Supporting Locals. It's the calendar that's sitting at the front there. And the purpose of LSL is to connect with each other locally and to give voice to farmers, citizens, and businesses, and to discuss and take action to ensure that local values and directions are respected and decisions are not based on that input. Yeah, so decisions process should be from locals up to the local governments, the provincial, the federal, and multinational corporations, and not the other way around, which is the way it's done today. We need to reclaim our individual and local sovereignty and form truly local solutions to the challenges that affect us all, kind of like what we're all here for today, is the heirloom seeds, right, the heritage seeds. We are a collective group of like-minded people who believe in supporting local fertile farms and vineyards, along with our many locally owned restaurants and stores. Locals is more than just where you live. It's also about how you support your community and how we support each other. And we've lost that connection. So that's a big part of what Locals Supporting Locals is about. It's reconnecting we the people again. The time is now. We are losing our small ethical farmers and mom and pops. And when our freedoms and independence are being eroded, these losses reduce our quality and our way of life. Currently, Locals Supporting Locals focuses on protection of our local supply from GMOs, stopping the expansion of smart meters, how we protect ourselves locally, and the threat of economic instability. Locals Supporting Locals supports true sustainability within our communities of our own design, using our own solutions from the grassroots up and not from the top down. I have been asked why I do this work. This sure as hell isn't for money, I can tell you that. If you picked up one of the calendars, you'll see that, yeah, they started at 20 bucks, but then they're now by donation. And they're good quality calendars because I want people to want them. I want you to put them up on the wall. They have to be full color because we're promoting food here and it just doesn't come across the same in black and white. A few years ago, I was diagnosed myself with osteoarthritis in both my knees, and I couldn't work. I was a waiter and bartender for 12 years, and as well, I was a salesman for door to door for 7, and I thought it was wear and tear. And I had no cartilage in one and very little in the other, and they wanted to give me 2 artificial knees. So I told the doctor very politely where to go and how to get there. I had seen my mother go through having two artificial knees, and the first one went through infection after infection. So I'm like, no, I can't do that. And so I took matter into my own hands, and basically what I found was, it's actually in the calendar too. It's called the Power Plant. They're biodensed frozen cubes. If you have a calendar there, just so you know, I always try to recommend this to anybody who's got osteoarthritis, arthritis of any kind. So they're right here. They're actually made and processed right in Kelowna. So it doesn't go over the border and get irradiated. And that's what's happening to a lot of food. Our food supply today is it's getting irradiated when it comes over the border, so it's dead food. So you're eating all these fruits and vegetables, thinking you're eating healthy, and meanwhile you're not, right? Hence why it's very important to support your local farmer. So I bought these frozen cubes strictly because of the fact, when I looked at the ingredients, it said spinach, kale, hemp, carrots, flax, hemp, and all certified organic. And I was on disability now because I could barely walk anymore. I could sit there and my knees would drop. So when I looked at the cubes, and at the time they were $13 a bag, there were 14 cubes in a bag, worked out to be less than $1 a day, and I got my daily veggie intake. So I bought it for that purpose, not knowing anything about what it was about to do to me. And I was taking these supplements also from our organic store that were helping, but they were also 40 bucks for a week, for a full week's, 3 weeks supply. So it's kind of expensive if you're on a disability income. And after 3 weeks of taking these frozen cubes, I was sitting on the couch and I noticed, I looked down on my knees and I'm like, you don't hurt anymore. And so I stopped taking the supplements and I concentrated strictly on the veggie cubes. And within another week to 2 weeks, I didn't have any pain. I am now jogging again. I'm back in the gym, and I can jump up and down. And anybody who has osteoarthritis in your knees knows it never gets better. It only gets worse. So I learned that alkalining my body, because it's very acidic, and that's the problem with our food today, is it's very, very acidic. And most of our processed foods all have the genetically modified cornstarch, sucrose. I mean, it's just loaded, and now you're finding out more and more about gluten, how that's affecting the body and your brain. And incidentally, there's at the top of every lunch, there's a food fact, how certain fruits and vegetables look like their body parts. So walnuts look like brains. So if you have friends that are lacking in, give them walnuts. But also, if you're getting off the gluten, walnuts would be a good one, and it'll help you with the brain fog you're going through. Yeah, I realized that all the solutions were in my food, and that's why through the calendar, that's what I try to promote. Getting you back to your food is your medicine. And all natural foods, including herbs around the world, are not life-sustaining, but there are people's medicines. Food belongs to all people simply because we are born and live and die on this planet. It is crazy that a few people want to control this basic necessity that by birthright belongs to us all. The 1%ers believe that we are crazy in thinking that it should be us controlling it. I know I am preaching to the choir here. Most of you know, not all of you do, but if you don't, if you got friends, trust me, these calendars help to do that for you. Bottom line is we have to protect ourselves in a bigger way than just GMOs and big agriculture. We have UN Agenda 21, which is another UN organization called Codex Alimentarius. Okay, this is also in the calendar. Codex Alimentarius, on behalf of all the people on the earth, wants to control the entire global food supply, citing safety as a reason. And we're all tied into it. There's about 172 countries that have already signed on to it. And Canada signed on to an international treaties and organizations that most people have no idea of. Codex is in the midst of controlling all natural medicines used safely for centuries. Most importantly, Codex Alimentarius, operated out of Europe, wants to make sure that all food is uniform, regulated, inspected. Right now, they are in the midst of banning cinnamon. And if you take organic real cinnamon, unpasteurized or real honey, and you put that with warm water, that also helps to heal arthritis. So what has cinnamon ever done for harm to any of us? So it doesn't make sense what they're doing. Currently in Europe, you can't buy vitamin C over 100 milligrams without a doctor's prescription. The control has already reached into Canada, but they are implementing it slowly and covertly so that future generations won't know the difference between the world we know now and the world our grandchildren will live in. So right now, Codex and European organizations are among the midst of banning the sale of heritage seeds. Everything that we're here for, they want to ban it, and put it under the guidance of the so-called Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and they're going to determine for you what is safe for you to plant. I mean, all in favor of that? You know? So, but that's what's going on. A lot of this is happening through sustainability. And what we are about is the true sustainability, and that happens at grassroots. So they have organizations, and if you're familiar, some of you may not have computers. I know some people are just removing them out of their houses here, but the internet has been our friend. It is a very valuable tool to us, because now we get to see the agenda that they've been using on us for centuries, guiding us down our path. But now we can get properly informed. So what they do is they create the problem, they wait for the reaction, and then they give you the solution. So there's a lot of sustainability groups that are out there that they're registered charities, and it's all about protecting our environment. Now, sadly, because they are a registered charity, and I did attend the GMO debate that took place in Kelowna, which was with the Fresh Outlook Foundation, and Joanne DeFries is the founder behind it, and she clearly stated right at the beginning, she goes, people automatically assume, because we promote sustainability, that we are against GMOs. And she goes, that is furthest from the truth. And I do have it all recorded too, because people need to understand that, because, I mean, I think all of us, in some way, shape, or form, care about our planet. So you're going to see these promotions and events taking place, and you're going to participate, and of course you want to be part of the solution. You don't want to be part of the problem anymore. And because they are a registered charity, they can neither advocate for or against GMOs. And that's Monsanto's way of coming in through the front door. So they put, and I've already seen it on boxes, it's stamped sustainable, right? Kind of like those new energy products, you know, they got the Energy Star on there. They're using the same thing here. So you're gonna see that, you're gonna think it's good. You know, and of course, that's our so-called Health Canada and our Canadian Food Inspection Agency. So we need to be aware of it, and that's why I have started the chapter, Okanagan chapter of Local, Supporting Local. So this way what we do is we meet, we discuss these issues, and we determine, through our people in our community, what route we're going to go down here. We don't need the UN to tell us what to do. You know, I've talked to some of the environmentalists that have come out of school that are part of these environmental movements. And I'm not talking the 7,000 environmentalists that Stephen Harper fired. Okay, I'm talking the environmentalists with degrees. I call them stickers sometimes here, because that's all you got is a sticker. You actually haven't even physically planted seeds. So I told one of them, I said, you know, I got farmers that are 5th, 6th generation. We got 8 Indians here that have been doing this for centuries. I said, if I'm going to ask anybody for advice on how, you know, to work with Mother Nature and how to plant, I'm going to go to them first, you know, as opposed to this so-called fixed agenda here. So that's what we got to do here, is reconnect as a community here again. I mean, basically we have to get off our ass, you know, and that's why I put together this calendar here, because somebody said, if you don't like what's going on, get off your ass and do something. And that's what I did. My background, like I was saying, I'm a 12-year waiter and bartender. You know, then I did 7 years of door-to-door sales and marketing, which a friend of mine was trying to convince me to take. I politely told him where to go for about a year, and then I wasn't happy with my job, and I ended up going to the United States. And I started off in Philadelphia, and it was a severe culture shock, being born and raised in Montreal, having lived in Canada, in Calgary, Vancouver, Whistler, and it was quite alarming to get down there, because I'm seeing what they're doing I've seen what they've done to the United States, and they're now doing to Canada, is they're destroying our manufacturing, right? That's where all our jobs are at. And when I went to the smaller communities, one of the things and I went to Flint, Michigan. I don't know if all of you are familiar with Flint. Roger and Me is a documentary that Michael Moore, who did Fahrenheit 9/11, that's his hometown, and that's where GM plant was. And it was a very thriving community, one of the biggest GM plants. When they shut that down and moved the plant down to Mexico, so this way they carry the payroll in their back pocket here, it destroyed the town. And that's what they're slowly doing right across the United States and Canada. They're taking our manufacturing, and when you no longer manufacture, you become a third world country. So if we're going to talk about local growth economy, we got to look at these things. So we have to make a restructuring here of the way we do business in our local communities here, and we can't rely on our provincial and federal governments. They're corporatized. I mean, to me, they should have to wear like racing car suits, you know, so we know who all their sponsors are. You know, because it's all big oil. And for example, the World Sustainable Development Business, which is the UN directive, it shows you who all the partners are. that are going to be behind the sustainable group. And we're talking Dole, DuPont, Monsanto, everything that we're fighting against, right? And in a lot of the sustainable growth, you'll see smart growth, you know. So I don't know how many people are informed on the smart meters, but that's what's part of it too. It's a smart growth, smart town, right? So we have to become very educated on these issues here. And I actually have Unu St. Clair that's going to come up and talk as well here. Also in the Okanagan right now, we have Okanagan Specialty Fruits. Okay, they're home of the Arctic browning apple. How many are familiar with the Arctic apple? Okay, yeah, so they call it the non-browning apple. So they don't tell you it's genetically modified. Okay, it's all in their advertising here. And it isn't genetically modified. It's much more dangerous to process, and Monsanto is starting to turn away from GMO and go to these worse genetically engineered forms of changing our food. And I'm just finding out about it myself, and I think it's called GRO, and it is a lot worse than what they've done with genetic modification here. And we hear about the apple, but it's not stopping there. If you go onto their website, again, I'd like to point out, they are right here in our Okanagan. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. They already have plans to genetically engineer the pear, the cherry, the peach, and of course the apple. Worst thing is that they have about over 50 farmers in the Okanagan that have invested into this. Okay, so this is an uphill battle. And I've noticed that some of my posts that I've been putting on to save the ALR and about protecting our farmland, I would post and I would put something on organic, and my posts keep getting taken down. So that concerns me a little bit. 50 farmers in our Okanagan is a lot of farmers. They say it's almost 70, and that came from one of the one of the members of the agricultural minister. Like, they just had their annual AGM, the BC Growers and Fruit Association here, and that came straight from the mouth of one of the members of the council. This will completely change the fruit of the Okanagan forever. There will be no going back. The organic growing industry will be wiped out completely. Conventional farmers will have a new master that they pay. There will be no saving our seeds and no doing seed exchanges like this one right now. Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba have largely been taken over in BC and the Okanagan. We protect our growing land. So we need to take our stand here in BC. We have to stop it here. And thankfully, because we have a big help, because with the pollen, that's how it spreads. But because of the mountains that we have here in BC, a lot of that can be prevented. It's not flatlands like Alberta and Saskatchewan here. Some good news recently, though. Internationally, there has been a blackout on the farmers who have successfully sued Monsanto, but are now being successful at suing their neighbors whose GMO crops have infected their natural crops, which is fantastic, which is, again, what we can pull off once we reconnect as a community here. And through these meetings too, what we got to do is elect our local government officials, because people seem to think that provincial and federal governments have to say at the end of the day, and that is the furthest from the truth. Local governments have all the power, and they are also the ones that hold the contracts for the RCMP. I did not know that, because only until I took on in the city of Penticton for smart meters did I find that out, because they were there to renew their contract. So when they come in to aid them in with their smart meters for whatever corporate reason they use, we as as an elected city government, we can tell them that no, that's not what we want. We don't want the smart meters. So it doesn't matter what they have to say, and it doesn't matter if it's BC Hydro or Fortis. Okay, so again, we just got to reunite and communicate. We know the problems, so what are some of the solutions? We have to take back our authority on a local basis. This is where all the change over the history of the world has started, with the people and locally. And that's where local supporting locals comes in. We want you to be here for each other, local farming, local business, local decisions, We need to network with each other, we need to support each other, we need to protect each other. We are looking for local economy growth, so let's go GMO free, let's be smart meter free. There are many businesses that will come here because they are attracted to a more natural way of living. We can look at Nelson, for example. They are out of box in many areas, but what works in their favor, the last stats I read was that Nelson was listed as one of the top 3 places desirable to live in BC, next to Vancouver and Victoria. In the Okanagan, we can set ourselves apart from the government corporate trend to adopt undesirable, unsafe technologies and instead to poster communities for healthy living. And in saying that, I have Una St. Clair. She's co-director for the Citizens for Safe Technology, and she was actually located on the island. And again, if you pick up one of these calendars, they are by donation, and I don't care what you can give. This is not made to get rich off of in any way, shape, or form. But like I point out to people, the printers don't take honey for money, right? So, there's an article on here about the class action suit that the Citizens for Safe Technology is doing. But I asked if Una could just come up and talk a little bit about the health and the safety of smart meters. But to talk about how importantly it would be for how we can attract people to come here, and when people come here, businesses come as well, right? So if you could just tell us a little bit about smart meters, bad, good, yeah.
Well, first of all, I want to say what an awesome event. It's so exciting to be here because there is a community spirit, and it is based on all those wonderful things like growing healthy seeds and people. Oh, I'm supposed to stand here in front of the camera. So I'm very thrilled to be here, and I have moved to this area and bought a piece of property and taken myself off the grid because I did not want to deal with BC Hydro any longer. I'm fighting them in court, and I didn't want them in my day-to-day life. But that being said, we are all subject to the smart grid. And the smart grid is a pulsing microwave radiation over every single living thing and being. Now, most people don't really understand what has happened, but it's a toxic design that is infiltrating our whole electrical grid. And the toxicity comes out by way of dirty electricity, which is a form of harmonics on the line, and also the pulsed microwave radiation from all the different devices that make up the smart grid. We are hearing from people around British Columbia who can no longer live in their own home comfortably. If there's a smart meter on the wall of their bedroom, or if there's 10 or 20, if they're in multiple housing units, these people have to move. The symptoms include sudden onset of massive headaches and migraines, sleep disturbances, anxiety, tinnitus or a buzzing, humming, thumping type of noise in the ears, dizziness, depression, foggy-minded, pain in the joints. There are many different symptoms of microwave sickness. Now, people say, well, this is much less energy than a cell phone. But what is true about this system is it pulses about every 3 seconds, and it is a very strong pulse that completely disrupts the natural harmony of the human cellular structure, or bees, or birds, or bats. And if you care to look around the world, amphibians, bats, amphibians being frogs and those types of things, bats, birds, and bees are all suffering a massive and sharp and sudden decline. Or there are problems where the immune systems of all of these creatures are so devastated that they're being taken over by different mites, parasites, and fungus. So what has changed so suddenly? And what we've seen is an explosion. 6 since really about 2004 of wireless technology. And if you can think about your life 10 or 15 years ago, and you think about it now, and think about all the changes in technology that is in your home, then you'll begin to realize how we've become inundated. If I take a microwave radiation meter and measure a cordless phone, the kind that sells in any of London drugs or Costco, those kind of places, you want me to stop? Okay. Then you'll see from the measurements that it is stronger than if you were standing 20 feet from a cell tower. It's the same thing with a Wi-Fi base station. It's the same thing with your laptop set to Wi-Fi. So these kinds of constant 24/7 exposures are slowly but surely disrupting and destroying the immune systems of all living systems, of all creatures. Some people say, well, I don't feel anything. It doesn't bother me. The wife may be feeling terrible, the husband or child. But there are people that don't appear to be affected. They say, I can use this fine. But what is found in blood tests is that it doesn't matter if the person feels ill or not. The blood is equally damaged. And that is something that cannot be denied with blood tests from exposure to significant things such as a smart meter. So we are seeing people that can no longer live in their homes and they have nowhere to go. Now I chose to find as big a piece of property as I could up here in the Salmon Arm area. I'm out towards Sorrento, and I believe that this area has a chance because people are more of a community than the Lower Mainland. There's more of a connection, there's more willingness to look up at the skies and see what's going on up there, and to understand that things that are invisible are not necessarily safe. There's a sense of being in touch with just what's right and wrong. You know, if I said to you, do you feel microwave radiation is safe? What do you think inside yourself? A lot of people have a sense of right and wrong that goes beyond what Health Canada is telling you. Of course, Health Canada is telling you that it probably won't hurt you, but they don't know for sure. Anyway, we have got a class action that is designed to bring choice back to everybody. And you can find more about that at our table or at Citizens for Safe Technology. And if anybody has questions, I think you wanted to leave them to the end, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so and that's why I brought Una up here, because again, it's awareness first, but solutions second.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're very welcome.
You're awesome in your Canada. And people can find me out there too.
Yeah, so you can see the benefits if we started to turn things around here, and made this, and I'm not saying, it's basically the title for Una's organization here, Citizens for Safe Technology. So it's just working and making it safe for everybody involved, and the kids are the ones that are affected the most, because they're still growing, right? So that's part of how we can start getting a local growth economy going again. Let's start making GMO free, let's work with safe technologies here, and more people will want to come. More people that want to come, it brings businesses here too. And we don't need the super big corporations to come in here. I'm talking just, we need to look at, things need to be restructured even in our local governments here, that our governments actually get involved with the developing of manufacturing here. And one of the biggest ones that's on the table right now, and of course you can see the corruption behind this, but is the hemp. If we actually started growing hemp here, I don't know if it was back in the 20s or 30s, when it came to the hemp rope, the strongest rope in the world. And that's what they were using for the big ships. And hemp was used throughout the World War I and World War II. And then all of a sudden it got made to be illegal because they started to make more money by making it illegal. And I'm not talking this stuff, the hemp you smoke, you can actually grow it. And we can start making clothing out of it, shirts out of it. They make cars out of it, they make houses out of it. Actually, Henry Ford, I just saw this video recently too. They showed him he built the hemp car, and he even took a sledgehammer and started hitting the car. It's the strongest car. And now, coincidentally, all the licenses for across Canada now are no longer allowed to be renewed. It's going under the federal government. You have to get federal permission in order to grow it, which again doesn't make sense. So they just want to control it. So they're going to create the hemp car, but it's going to be done with electrical cars. And for some reason, I don't know why people seem to think in this growth movement that electric cars are so much better. You still got to generate the electricity for the car, you know. So it's no better to charge your battery here, but you can actually use the hemp to run the car as well too. So we're acting as a hub for locals, and we got a sheet at the top there that I recommend everybody put their name, phone number, email. We can keep you updated with events that are coming. We hold weekly to monthly meetings. We got a lot more things coming, but we're forming the foundation to this, because I started this back 4 years ago, and finally, I say jokingly, I got people now. You know, I'm one guy that put this all together, and just to show you here, because people say one person can't make a difference, and I really beg to differ on that one, because I have zero background on media or public speaking, and I used to call it, and it was because of the door-to-door funding built that fear in me, and it took till about the third year of me doing it, because I used to call it the Elvis. I would come up and my leg would start to shake, and my lip would start to twitch, so I called it the Elvis, you know. But this is what the calendar started off. It was just a twinkle in my eye, and somebody put this together first. And in order to get the calendar printed, I needed sponsors, and they wanted $1,000. I don't have $1,000, so I cut it out of magazines and newspaper to give you somewhat of an idea of what it was going to look like, right? And so I landed up. I got 60 sponsors, believe it or not, and that went from Summerland all the way to Osoyoos, and nobody ever heard of locals supporting locals. But then I wound up getting 60 sponsors, and I got the first one printed, right? And so this was our first annual Spotted Lake. To me, I think every one of us as a community should have to go to Spotted Lake. It's a medicinal healing lake. If we all walk through this, then we can start from scratch again, because your body's attracted to the pod of the minerals that are contained in these pods to help heal you, and that's the problem that we have. We're divided, even on issues. Smart meter people, some of them think that the GMO people are conspiracy theorists, and vice versa, you know. And just so people know, because I just found this out recently myself, the term conspiracy theorist, you know where it came from? Back when they shot JFK, there was so much evidence, so many witnesses that saw that not only was it the driver beside him that took a shot at him, there was actually 3 or 4 shots that JFK got. And if you do your true research on this, and it's all coming out now because the files are open now, but lots of people, lots of those witnesses have died. So what they came out with, because there was too much being said, is don't subscribe to these conspiracy theories. And that's exactly when it came back out again, coincidentally, when 9/11 took place. And I usually like to say it, when I say something like that, is if you still think that 19 guys with box cutters from a cave in Afghanistan took down 2 of the most secure buildings, you're too far behind. I don't have time. We got a lot of stuff going on right now, and we really need to get educated on that part. And so now this is the second annual. So now I went from 60 sponsors to 96 sponsors. I went from 10 coupons in the back to 28. But everyone that is written on this calendar, from Shiv Chopra, who worked 35 years with Health Canada, he found out what was causing the mad cow disease, and found out the bovine growth hormone, how harmful it was, and got it banned from Canada. Instead of getting a medal, he was fired after 35 years. And also we got Agenda 21 here that these are all folded up with websites. It's not me. I have a heavy disclaimer on here. None of the views reflect either what local supporting locals views are, or it's advertised. But you need to do these things. And talking about how they're privatizing BC Hydro in order to privatize it, kind of like where our post service is going now. Alex Adamanenko, the NDP minister, he's the only politician that I support. I don't support the party itself, I don't support any party politics, but he is truly a good man. And actually we have Lily here that's working with locals, supporting locals. He's actually his right hand and is retiring along with Alex when he retires, which is sad because
He's not a minister, he's a member of parliament.
a member of parliament. You see, I don't get into party politics. But yeah, in here he talks about how the Canadian Food Inspection Agency actually changed the term local so that big corporations can now lie to you, and it could be coming within just past the borders into Washington. So you don't even know what you're getting anymore, right? So hence why I have all of our farmers, who they are, what they grow, how to find them all again. It's all at the top, even including the food facts on here. So when I say we gotta go local, you gotta go local on local. You know, we gotta protect these guys because otherwise we're gonna lose them. You know, and I know a lot of us are on tight budgets, so it's hard to put 100% of your money and stay away from Walmart altogether and these Target stores. But if you can just give the 10% and support your locals, it would make a world of difference to these guys. And again, go back to the farm, get to know your farmer. You'd be surprised what they'll do for you. You know, get that connection going again. You know, and you'll know everything. You'll feel good when you eat that food at the end of the day. I mean, I love my farmers. And I grew up in the concrete jungles in Montreal. I don't know the first thing about planting. I can grow a tomato plant. That's all I've really ever grown. But that's not my job right now. My job is to help promote them, promote our local businesses, stand here in front of you guys and try to, you know, get into your hearts and make you realize how they got us and what we got to do, right? So when something feels wrong, you see somebody speaking up, you know, you don't point your finger and like, you know, because you'll get people that do that, you know. It takes a lot of guts to get up and actually do these things, you know, and I've seen a lot of people actually doing this now, and we all got to do it now, and we got to go to our community meetings, our council meetings. We got to get organized and get the right people in there, right? Because it takes a lot of guts to sit in there because you get tapped on the shoulder a lot. You don't see that in the public part, you know, so it takes guys with guts. We need farmers, retired farmers in there too. Okay, so we're acting as a hub for a lot of interesting projects that individuals and businesses are doing. We want to aggressively campaign to stop the decisions made outside of our community that will affect our community. Lots of trade agreements going on that are very, very detrimental to Canada here. Decisions like the recent Bill C-18, the Agricultural Growth Act, that gives multinational agribusinesses more money, more power and control, while increasing the farmers' costs, increasing the farmers' debts, and reducing the farmers' independence. It allows a company to sue a farmer for storing harvested seed plant the following spring. Bill C-18 will remove classes of farmers, plant varieties, and entire crop kinds, and to restrict, prohibit, or put conditions on the use of harvested material. It is a massive transfer of wealth from farmers to seed companies. Apart from C-18 already in the world, and soon moving here, are plants where even home gardens, will have to be licensed. This truly evil intent not only affects our food growers, it affects all of us. At the same time, it is as vigorously educating about these issues and fighting the good fight. Local supporting locals links to supports and encourages great local projects like a farmer in Oliver developing a school. Kids can learn how to farm. Another farmer in the same area, who I'll be giving a message from in a few minutes here, it's further on here, but and his endeavor is to start he's starting a local seed vault, which coincidentally there are 2 seed vaults. I think one of them is in the Arctic or Alaska that our governments have put together, and you got to ask yourself why. What do they know that we don't know? We have a farmer in Kelowna educating people on bio-intense farming. I've been to his place, and he's got 2 acres, and it's bio-intense French farming. In these 2 acres, he's able to develop enough food that can feed anywhere from 300 up to 500 families a day, every day, all year round, and he doesn't have a tractor. Right now, they're currently 3 people, bringing more on board this year, but there are 3 people that actually man that can pull that off. And it's just a made in Italy rototiller that helps to do that. I've got it all on video too, it's fantastic. You know, so there's some great solutions here, you know, and so I don't mean to talk about the stuff that, I don't like to be a fear monger. To me, information or knowledge is information here, or information is knowledge. It's what you do with it. I don't live in a fear-based world, but I believe if you're going to bring awareness, bring solutions. These are part of the solutions here. So once we got our local government, then we implement these local programs, and they only make sense. I mean, anybody who would want to stop somebody from wanting to feed 500 families every day, you're going to have a hard time convincing the rest of the community that that's not a good thing, right? Others are thinking deeply on sustainable barter systems. There are just a few that stand out, but it goes further than just farming. We want to know about and be a part of a local endeavor that is going to help us to be the sovereign Okanagan. The life of a community is the people, the farmers, and the businesses. Together we can make a difference. Local community networking is our passion. Our goal is to continue to strengthen our network that reconnects us in our local communities and provides a framework that can be used across the province and the country to do the exact same thing here. So, I mean, just so you know, like, it's just this year, finally, I've gotten people to realize that that's not an advertising calendar, you know, so when some people tell me that that is an advertising calendar, I recommend that you read it again. If you still think it is, then please give it to somebody that can read, you know, so finally, so you guys are right here at the bottom of it, so it's not like everything's formed yet. We all have decisions, and when we have our meetings, and initially what I've done is I handpick people that I know. Has anybody seen The Matrix? The movie The Matrix? Yeah, okay. Well, in there it's called, they say, he says to Joe, he says you can take the red pill or the blue pill. And so you can take the red pill and the blinders come off and you will see the world for what it truly is. Or you can take the blue pill and the world will stay as it is and you'll think it's a beautiful place. I took the red pill and I even think it's suppository style, so I am very well aware of what's going on, you know, and so Local Supporting Locals wants to remember what local really means because it is being redesigned and redefined as we speak. They're changing our whole language pretty much. We are the change we want to see, and it starts right here now. As one way of funding our mission, Local Supporting Locals produces the calendar. In this way we get to know each other. We know who is growing healthy GMO-free food locally, who the businesses are that philosophically support this movement, and the purchasers of the calendar. The businesses offer a nice incentive through the coupons. They have provided for the calendar for the businesses. It is advertising with a purpose. And for consumers, a way to support locals, supporting locals in their mission, in our work, and one small step in supporting each other. So I just want to read to you what he's actually February in he's January in the calendar. That's the Sen Farm, and I met them at the Penticton Farmers Market, and they're actually a young couple. They're in their early 30s, and they actually lived in Vancouver. And when she got pregnant, her father's been preaching her to about food and a lot of political issues ever since she was a kid. And she didn't really, she kind of listened, but kind of not, like a lot of us have. And one day when she started to really look into things, and when she got married to Ricardo, and they were about to have a child, and he was an engineer in school, and but grew up in Italy as a farmer. They decided they didn't want their child to grow up in Vancouver, and they weren't going to feed their child that kind of food that was coming out of the corporate box stores. So they actually bought a farm and had everything on there from cows, goats, chicken, ducks, goats, you name it, everything, completely self-sustained. Those are two, they're their second one now, one's 3, the other one's a year and a half. But those are organic babies, I can't wait to see what they do. But yeah, so that's just a little background behind the farmer that actually wrote this here. So just please keep in mind, I don't take any courses on doing this. Everything I'm trying to do right now is just coming from the heart. So it's the first time I'm actually reading from a paper too, because like you guys make me nervous, you know. So okay, so from Ricardo's to Send Farm and Seeds. We need to come together with like-minded people. The current system run by others who are not local, who we don't know and don't trust, cannot sustain itself, so we need to reclaim our community, starting with the basics in order of importance. Water, food, shelter, clothing, energy. Air should be in there, but with the practices of planting tree and forest gardens, we have possibility of replenishing the oxygen levels of our air. Water is important for all life and good pure source, and is now hard to find. We have a lot of technology and filter systems that we can even take sewer water and make it drinkable. Food is very important and good. Nutritious food is medicine for the body and gives us energy for creating and repairing the world. Okay, our goal at the Send Farm and Seeds is to grow and store all of our food requirement, and more so that we can share the abundance that nature provides. And the goal of our community is to produce 3 times the community requires, so that 1 part we consume in the community, 1 part we solve for creating a cash flow or a trade system, 1 part we give to others in need. The food system will be rooted on a seed-saving bank. And just like food, we will produce 3 times the requirement of the community. We take no consideration to save enough seeds we take into consideration, to save enough seeds every year for 2 years in a row at least, to save 3 times the amount that we can, so that we can apply the same concept as the food. We have put a lot of time and effort into the research into creating an easy seed bank vault where people can save their seeds up to 20 years without the use of refrigeration by borrowing. Question mark. It's like our ancestors used to do to preserve their future generations. We are very flexible with our goals so that we can accommodate the need of each individual in the community, but at the same time we have goals in order to create such a change. Shelter and location for the community in the event of economic or natural disaster. As I learned in when I was doing sales, the 7 P's of life. Proper prior planning prevents pitiful poor performance. It applies. And we see where our world's going there, so people do need to be more prepared, or at least like form a network, so you know, like in the event of where do you go, what do you got, you know, and because a lot of anarchy can take place with what happened in the Philippines. I mean, yeah. Working with Alec Louis, who was actually the hereditary in the calendar there, from when you see Spotted Lake, he's the one, him and his mother have been looking after, taking care of Spotted Lake for the past 14 years. So working with Alec Louis around the idea, the co-op is he is trying to build with the protection of tribal law. And just so you know, tribal law, all it means is thou shalt not commit harm. That's all it is, by law. Clothing. We have alpacas and hides from our animals, and we are working towards making our own wool and leather clothing. We are currently working on aquaponic systems, methane digester, and earth ship building-like techniques. We have endless possibilities. We need open minds, creativity, cooperation, and skills of locals to achieve the change we want to see. This change has never been done before in the history of mankind. From a life with all the glories and glitters and dependency on a system, to turn around and realize that our lifestyle is causing a lot of destruction and the suffering for other communities around the world. The communities of the Okanagan need to make our own rules and regulations at local level and work within trade agreements with our community with our communities based on needs and requirements, not global trade agreements like what's going on. If we want peace on earth, we have to live within the means of local communities, and that is what we want to start, and that's what local supporting locals is. So, thank you very much.